What if I told you that one of the greatest mysteries in human history has been hiding in plain sight for over 2,000 years? Scratched into the surface of a remote desert in Peru are images so enormous they can only be fully seen from the sky. But here's the question that has haunted archaeologists for a century. How did an ancient civilization with no aircraft, no satellites, and no modern technology create something that seems designed to be viewed from above? Today, we go to the Nazca Desert, and we may finally have the answer. Imagine flying over a remote stretch of desert in southern Peru. Below you, there is almost nothing. No rivers, no towns, no signs of life. Just a vast, cracked, rust-colored plain stretching for kilometers in every direction. And then you see them. Lines, hundreds of them, some perfectly straight, cutting across the desert for kilometers without deviation. Others curve and bend into recognizable shapes: a hummingbird with a wingspan of 96 meters, a spider the size of a football pitch, a condor stretching nearly 140 meters from wingtip to wingtip, a monkey with a perfectly coiled tail, a figure that some people, very controversially, call the astronaut. These are the Nazca Lines, and they are unlike anything else on Earth. They were created by the Nazca people, an ancient civilization that flourished in this region of Peru between roughly 100 BC and 800 AD. That means some of these lines are over 2,000 years old. And yet, despite centuries of erosion, earthquakes, and time,
Maria Reich. A German mathematician and archaeologist, Reich devoted over 50 years of her life to studying, mapping, and protecting the Nazca Lines. She moved to the desert. She lived there. She measured every line by hand, crawling across the baking plateau with measuring tape and notebooks, slowly building the first comprehensive map of the geoglyphs. And her conclusion, after decades of work, was remarkable. Reich believed the Nazca Lines were an enormous astronomical calendar. She argued that the lines pointed towards significant solar and lunar events, solstices, equinoxes, star rises. She believed the animal figures represented constellations in the Nazca sky. The hummingbird, she argued, pointed toward the sunrise at a specific time of year. The spider aligned with the constellation Orion. For decades, her theory dominated. It was elegant, it was scientific, it felt like it fit. But then other researchers began to challenge it. Reconstructed Visual, a group of Nazca priests in ceremonial dress walking single file along a dead straight line toward the horizon. In the 1990s and 2000s, a new theory began to gain serious traction, one rooted not in astronomy, but in something far more urgent, something the Nazca people were desperate for: water. The Nazca Desert receives less than 10 millimeters of rain per year. For the civilization that lived here, water was not just important. Water was everything. Without it, crops failed. Without it, people died. Without it, civilization collapsed. And researchers began to notice something extraordinary. Many of the straight lines, the long, arrow-straight corridors that cut across the desert, pointed directly toward underground water sources, toward ancient riverbeds now dry, toward areas where groundwater could be accessed. Furthermore, the Nazca people built an extraordinary network of underground aqueducts called puquillos, spiral-shaped filtration systems.
So what were the Nazca Lines actually for? The most compelling answer, supported by the majority of modern archaeologists, combines several of these theories into a single, unified picture. The Nazca Lines were sacred ritual pathways. They were walked, not flown over. The act of walking the lines, tracing the body of the hummingbird, following the spiral of the monkey's tail, was the ritual itself. The scale was not designed for aerial viewing. The scale was designed to honor the gods. to create something so vast, so committed, so monumental that the divine forces above, the mountain spirits, the sky gods, the forces that controlled rainfall, could not possibly ignore it. Think of it as a message written not in words, but in the earth itself. The animal figures, the hummingbird, the condor, the spider, were almost certainly sacred animals in Nazca cosmology. The spider, in particular, is associated in Andean tradition with rain and water prediction. The condor is a spiritual messenger, a creature that flies between the human world and the divine. The hummingbird is connected to fertility and renewal. These were not decorations, they were prayers. And then, around 500 to 600 AD, something went wrong. Climate records from ice cores and geological data tell a dark story. The region experienced a prolonged, catastrophic drought, possibly triggered by the El Niño climate phenomenon. Water sources dried up. The Puquios could no longer sustain the population. Crops failed across multiple seasons. The fragile desert civilization that had built one of the ancient world's most extraordinary